Hey, it's Steve. In this video, we're going to take a look at the model railroads that have been most inspirational to me during my hobby career. The collection here varies in scale from N to O scale, and they all have different reasons why they're influential to me in terms of, my career overall. So the first one I want to talk about is Malcolm Furlow's San Juan Central. Now, this is a famous model railroad and one that probably you've all seen before. We recently lost him, which kind of got me remembering more about that railroad. And that was one that I saw when I was a kid. And the level of artistry in that railroad was just really impressive, like the way the colors worked and just the flow of the scenery and, dramatic scenery in a fairly small space. And that was just a layout that really, really impressed me and really got me a lot more interested in the hobby in general, just seeing what you could do artistically and world creation wise and that kind of thing. It was basically based on a real place, but there was a lot of freelancing involved. And it was just really dramatic scenery that really impressed me. And that was something that I just kind of try to keep with me as I've progressed in this hobby in terms of, seeing how he did the scenery and how he approached it and ways that he built things and all that. That's just one of those layouts that have been kind of a large part of how I've, learned and approached the hobby. Now, another one from when I was younger is Lou Sassy's Kantatuk. That's not right. I can't remember the name of it exactly. I'll have to find the book and I'll show you. But that layout was a 4x8 foot HO scale layout, and it was super well done. And that one was impressive to me because it was a very achievable layout in HO scale that looked incredible. It had great scenery, great structures, the look of the layout, with the New England, environment was something that I really liked a lot. And it was just one of those layouts that I was like, wow, I could probably build this. And you see all these huge layouts that are amazing, but they're beyond anything you can possibly do because of space or monetary resources or just overall skill level or whatever. But here was a layout, and this book I had checked out from the library multiple times. I eventually bought it, and it was one of, I think, the greatest how-to books, of that time when it came out. And I don't remember how old it is, but I just remember seeing that and I was like, wow, this is like, it's a great looking railroad. Everything is laid out here. It was, other books have done that. There was all kinds of how-to books before, obviously, before that one. But most of those projects weren't kind of at the same level. Either they were similar size, but maybe weren't as detailed and realistic looking, or they were, like the San Juan Central, it was a bigger project that looked incredible, but maybe a little bit beyond reach. And here was something that was a nice average size, the classic 4x8, but it looked great. And that was something that really just inspired me when I was going in HO scale at the time. And I kind of tried to use some of those principles when I built my 5x10 foot HO layout. But this 4x8 one that Lou built is something that I've always looked back at a lot. And I think this is something that I'd like to do in N scale at some time, build an N scale version of that, roughly 2x4 feet. It'd probably have to be slightly bigger. But basically in that size and N scale, I think that would be a really fun project. So that might be something that I look at doing, next year after, whatever. I think, replicating that layout in N scale, I think would be a lot of fun. Now, the first N scale railroad that really kind of inspired me to move into N scale was David Vollmer's, I don't know if it was just the Pennsylvania Railroad, I can't remember what he called it, but it was a 36 inch by 80 inch door layout that was all in N scale. It featured a double track main line, urban areas, some industries, that kind of stuff, and really great looking scenery. Again, on a door, easily portable. He at the time was in the military, and so he moved around a lot. It really made me realize how much you could do in a small space. And when I was younger, N scale was kind of wonky. It just wasn't great. And then, as I've gotten older, now N scale is just incredible in terms of the availability, the quality. Everything is basically up there with HO scale in terms of all those aspects. And so you can pretty much do anything you want in N scale, and you're going to have good reliability and availability of product. And so, that was the first one that really got me looking at N scale a lot more. Now, the next one about the same time was David Pop's Naugatuck railroad that he built. And that one he actually started, and I think I have the book on it. I'll have to see. He actually started that on a single hollow core door as well, and then kind of built more modules and built a larger layout. And there's been lots of features of that. And I have the book of his larger layout and lots of model railroader articles and so forth on that layout. But that was another one, again, in N-scale that got me inspired because he started out on a single hollow core door, did a lot with that, expanded it. And again, it was just the idea of being able to do a lot of railroad in a small space and or have a layout that was very portable and easy to move around. That was something that really, it kind of excited me and got me more into N-scale, just because of all those great aspects of it. Okay, next up is Lance Minheim with his East Rail layout, as well as the small Palmetto Spur layout in this awesome How to Build a Switching Layout book. And those I have together because I saw the East Rail layout first in Model Railroader magazine, saw how amazing that layout was, small 8x8 foot switching layout, simple track plan, and then, saw his book and the Palmetto Spur in there, which is kind of a half-size version more or less. But that basically served as the basis for my HO scale 1x6.5 foot switching layout that I built a few years ago. And it really just got me thinking about what I actually need in a small layout to kind of meet my desires for an operating session, which are typically very short. I don't have time to run trains for hours or anything like that. So I either just like to watch trains run or do, a switching session where I spend 20, 25 minutes and that's about it. And so I don't need a large layout for that, but I want to have a very simple setup and still an enjoyable operating session that has enough variation in it to keep me interested in it for a long time. We're not doing the exact same movements every single time. So with that kind of setup, I kind of realized that, wow, there's like thousands of combinations I can do with, an operating session, even with a simple track plan. And that really kind of inspired me on the idea of having small layouts that can be very, very enjoyable to have and operate. So anyway, inspirational on different levels, but certainly some layouts to check out and a book to check out if you haven't seen it already. Now, probably the last layout that's really inspired me is Norm Charbonneau's O-scale layout. It's a 3-rail O-scale layout. Everything is weathered. Everything looks hyper-realistic. And I hadn't really seen that in 3-rail O-scale before. I've seen those layouts in 2-rail O, but I've never been interested in doing a 2-rail O layout just because it takes up a lot more space. There's less availability, in 2-rail O, although it's pretty good now. But with 3-rail, you have a lot more availability of equipment. You can do, really sharp radius turnouts and things and fit more in a smaller space. And so that's why I'm excited about starting a small 3-rail O-scale switching layout here in the coming months once I get this 2x4 foot project wrapped up, and I've been collecting supplies for that O-scale project. Because it is something that, I can still do in a pretty small space. But O-scale obviously is big. It has great sound, great details in that size. And so it's something that I want to kind of play around with because I figure as I get older, I'm going to be wanting to do maybe larger scales more as it gets harder to do smaller scales, as I get into my 60s or whatever. But it's just that it was the first one I had seen in 3-rail O-scale that was like that. And that really kind of just stood out to me and kind of really made me take notice of doing O-scale more and looking at it more, because I really hadn't looked at it at all, for a very long time. And so that's why it was inspirational. Even though I had seen a lot of O-scale layouts, they weren't really something that I had considered doing until I saw his layout. And so that's why it's on my list of inspirational layouts. So anyway, that's just a list of layouts that have inspired me in one way or another in terms of my thinking and what I've planned to do. And so anyway, maybe down in the comments, you can share some of the model railroads that have inspired you during your hobby career. It's really fun to hear about what has got people into the hobby and how they've kind of evolved in their journey. So anyway, just list down some of the model railroads maybe that you have found especially inspirational in your life in the hobby. And some of us can go check those out, and maybe we haven't seen them ourselves before, and maybe we can take some inspiration from those as well. But anyway, that's all for now, and thanks for watching. Bye.